Are you ready? Guys, are you ready for this? Seriously. It's gonna get crazy.
Yay! Okay. Cover.
Yeah, cheers for coming onto the show for Consider This. What do you think? Could be crazy,
I,
huh?
I think it's good. I'm kind of I've spent the day chain smoking and eating my feelings. The more I learn, the less I want to know, and it's been a day. But we'll go
Ah,
down this rabbit hole. I'm excited, and I want everyone to know that this was voted for. We didn't choose 9/11 ourselves, especially coming up to the anniversary. And someone needs to tell you to stop being so excited about it. Every time you say it, you're like 9/11.
oh really? I didn't even notice. I mean, yeah. I mean, I think I'm excited about generally everything, Claire. If you hadn't noticed, I don't think
I'm a
it's
bit
specific to 9/11, but Jesus, yeah, I got a bit. I didn't even realize it was flipping coming up this week until Brew came on and we mentioned it. So, flip's sake,
yeah.
like, oh, that's I should have just like vetoed it and just picked aliens as usual as a safe bet.
No,
But
because I think it's good. I think that like look, nobody's negating the emotion that's around the topic of it. It's a very emotional thing, and because of that, it's difficult to kind of put the questions to it. But just because it's emotional and it makes us feel a certain way doesn't mean we shouldn't go down a rabbit hole because who knows what we'll find.
yeah, absolutely. So, tell us, what did you find?
Oh, okay, because right, this was for me. I'm one of these people. I don't trust my own intelligence. So when people tell me things, I'm generally like, yeah, okay, you've probably done your research. So when people picked 9/11, I was like, oh, this is going to be so tough. And then a friend of mine was like, nah, 9/11 is easy. You start with the Pentagon. And I was like,
Okay.
okay, let's go down this hole. So the idea that there was like really in early video footage and photos were taken, and there was really little evidence that showed that a plane actually crashed into the Pentagon. Now, this is one of the world's most protected buildings that has like 200 security cameras around, surrounding the building, and we have no other footage. So immediately, the lack of transparency there is just going to set off alarm bells in people who are highly emotional that are going to try and make sense of it. And that just seems really strange to me. And then when I went a bit deeper, there was Rumsfeld. Am I saying that right? Rumsfeld.
Yeah,
Is that how, yeah.
Rumsfeld. Yeah.
And the day before 9/11, he said that $2.3 trillion were unaccounted for. And then the next day, 9/11 happens, and the part of the Pentagon that was destroyed was the accounting section. So again, you're going to pick at a scab and go further down that rabbit hole and think, okay, there has to be something bigger to this. Now, that was in 2001, so that was 19 years ago. So now, like in recent articles, it looks like $21 trillion can't be accounted for. And after
Wow.
9/11, people stopped asking questions. So straight
That's
away, I don't know
interesting.
how I feel about that.
Yeah,
Like
that's
I
a bit
know the
interesting. Hmm.
yeah. What do you have for me?
Well, look. So for me, it's interesting because there's so many different aspects to it and questions that one can ask. Right. So first of all, what is the motive? For me, like my feeling is it can't be just that. There has to be
Mm.
more to it for something so elaborate to have been created. If it was an inside job, right? It can't
Yeah,
just
and
be
then
like, oh, that's happening. So I always think into like what's the psychology behind it? How are people affected by it? Obviously, it was a amazingly hard and emotional situation for the world to kind of see something built up like this, and we had footage from each angle. We had almost each angle actually, and we
yeah.
actually don't have footage from the first plane apparently.
What
Most
I
people
find
heard it
really
was an
strange as
explosion.
well is that like when you actually go looking for like because these theories have obviously been around for the last 19 years. Within hours of this happening, people were in internet chat saying no, this is what's really going on. So
Hmm.
like it's had time to expand. But what's really interesting is that like the more you look into it now, the less you can find, and that
Yes.
to me is really kind of if it's all been debunked, and I know that you can say that that's with respect to the victims, that you don't want to have these conspiracies going around, but that's just a lack of knowledge, a lack of information, a lack of, questioning, So I'm really curious as to why it's so difficult to actually find these theories now. Everybody's heard them, but when you go looking into them to find the backup to it, it's really difficult to find.
Yeah, absolutely. I definitely did a bit of research there on trying to on YouTube particularly to try and find the videos that I remember watching years ago, maybe
Yeah,
8 years ago, and I can't find them as easily. They're very hard. Now, actually, one of them was the Rumsfeld speech,
yeah,
which he did mention the 3.2 trillion missing, and it was announced on the 10th, which is the day before of 9/11. And there's a 10-minute video that I eventually found, but I really, really had to. It took a bit of effort, and obviously I made that effort because I knew we were having the show
yeah,
today. But I wouldn't have made that effort if I was like scrolling past, the posts, or scrolling
yeah.
past and just like accidentally came across it. You can't really accidentally go into it unless you're searching for it. Another thing was obviously the insurance that was brought out only a couple of months before the attacks, which was kind of interesting. Now, it wasn't just for terrorist insurance or anything like that. It was just like a general insurance plan, so there's nothing ultimately extremely shady about it.
Yeah, yeah.
A couple of months in advance, that's definitely something that you'd like to sort of put in there anyway to consider, because the guy that owns it, whatever his name is, Larry Silverstein, he got covered 4.5 billion for the two buildings after the attack, which is pretty crazy that he got that amount of money after just insuring it a couple of months before. So, I mean, that's pretty crazy.
Yeah,
Also,
like with the insider traders as well that took their stocks. Is this the same thing? Insured their stocks? Is that
yeah.
what you're
I
saying?
mean, no,
Yeah.
this is different. That was
Yeah.
insurance based, but stock, of course, yeah, people sniffed it out or were able to. Now, some people do say that the CIA knew in advance, or sometimes their intelligence agency can sort of snuff out a bit of info and say this is meant to be happening sometime, and perhaps the higher ups have information to the possibility. We don't know when it's going to happen, so we can't stop it. And
Mm.
that story has become a little bit more part of the main what do you call it, the main blah blah blah, whatever. It's kind of like the middle road between the conspiracy stuff to what is mainstream, or what has been mainstream for so long. So people that state that, oh, the CIA knew in advance, have been allowed on to be interviewed on shows like CNN and Fox, because it's kind of middle of the road. It meets sort of both ways. It's like, oh, well, the CIA knew. It's pretty normal procedure that they might know something in advance. Some people might be able to hear it from like the higher ups that, oh, this might happen, and that's why these actions were taken into place. So there is that sort of, but that could also be a strategy put into play to downplay, everything else. So we don't know.
That
Yeah.
is the thing. No, so this is why today has been eating and chain smoking, because the more that I look into it, the more I can see all of the sides of it. So like, I can understand why people say truthers are wrong, and I can understand why truthers are adamant that they're right. And the only thing that I can take from it is that, like, we haven't a clue and we'll never know. And that's the really terrifying thing, because the longer it goes on, we have certain information that comes out, which makes it very, very apparent that things in the beginning were not true. Do you know? So that immediately puts everything you've said into doubt and cast doubt on that. So when you find all this information that seems like logically to make sense, I can understand why people get caught up in why they go, no, 9/11 was definitely an inside job. Either way it happened, and either way it was devastating, and we shouldn't be arguing, but we should ask questions. Do you know what I mean? And we should kind of question whether or not we should trust what people are saying. But I feel like America, for me, lately has become, outside of it, watching America from the outside feels like you're watching this constant reality TV show. Like, it doesn't feel real. It's so far removed from what I know here and from what I'm used to day to day, And it's kind of, you forget that people live in this reality every day. Do you know, like, this is what's real for them. I'm like, I don't know how it must feel to be an American in America and to genuinely believe that your government is not behind you and that they're doing these things. Nobody wants to believe that it's insidious, but people have to ask the questions, because if it is, don't they have a right to know?
Absolutely. And there's a big mixed bag, in the States, with regard to people who believe in it and people who don't. And even some celebrities had to, not had to, but they set up campaigns to at least reopen the investigation. So the investigation was pretty much closed off, and there was no negotiation then on many shows, on all mainstream shows, about what happened. And any sort of requests to reopen the investigation was immediately people were denounced as conspiracy theorists, and people got usually angry at them, and especially on talk show hosts would turn on their guests and to sort of say, how dare you consider anything else other than what's been told for us. And that's a very dangerous behavior, I find. So even though a lot of people were questioning it, it's still not fair to actually close off completely something that definitely did feel to have some loose ends. Really did feel like it had many loose ends. For example, the Pentagon.
The lack of information now as well. The fact that there's so many loose ends, and that, like, if you say now, with all of the information you accumulate over time and the way that the world is evolving, like, now you want to go back and you want to reassess with a different head on your shoulders, and the information is far more difficult to find. Like, and that in itself, I know I've said it, it's so shady to me. But if you Google 9/11 now, one of the most interesting articles that I saw was Noor bin Laden, who is the niece of Osama bin Laden.
Seen it.
Did you see it? But like, the headline enough, if people are just going to go based off of headlines, is enough to make you go and vote for Trump, because it
can you explain the headline? I didn't mean to just say that then you finished the thing. So tell the guys at home what the headline's about there.
The headline is, Osama bin Laden's niece says Donald Trump is America's best bet to avoid the next 9/11. So basically, if Joe Biden is to be voted into president, to be their next American president, he won't have what it takes to negate another terrorist attack. But Donald Trump is the only hope America has to stay away from future terrorist attacks. But if you don't read the article and realize that her father was the half brother of Osama bin Laden, and they had been estranged for years, and that she doesn't really have any ties to that side of her family, if you as an American are going to read that headline, you're going to think, okay, well, I'm gonna vote Trump because I don't want 9/11 to happen again. And
of course,
with everything that's going on, I feel like a lot of people are just consuming their information through headlines.
Oh, of course. And that's been happening a lot since, obviously, Facebook really would have been the main culprit for that,
And especially being at home.
Yeah, especially being home. Absolutely. Yeah. So it's interesting as well, because there's many architects and engineers that also are skeptical. They're first of all, well educated, and no more educated than the next person, you know what I mean? And have founded a group called Architects and Engineers for 9/11 Truth. And there are 3,200 architects and engineers that are part of this group that feel that after studying the videos and after running tests, artificial intelligence tests, or whatever you call them, simulations, that's what we're talking about, that the how fast the building fell, such as in a free fall style, did not coincide with how the plane struck the building and the temperatures that were created for the steel frames, that it would not be top heavy enough to collapse the building like that. So
it was more like a controlled demolition.
A controlled demolition, and exactly. So these are people that, with degrees, with masters in, and there's 3,200 of them, and they created a group as well. There's also 26,000 members of public in this group as well, and which was taken from March 1st. I'm just on the Wikipedia page here now. It's just saying all this info. It was founded in 2007. So yeah, it's interesting, that you have a lot of people that are well learned that are skeptical about what happened.
And what you find is that the minute, anybody who could have been throughout their whole career absolutely admired and told that they were the most intelligent, most advanced in their industry or in their line of work, the minute they question something that seems a little bit far-fetched, their whole career is thrown into the mix by being told that they're a conspiracy theorist. And it's a dangerous thing, because look, there are conspiracy theories out there that can hinder the flow of free information and fact, and that is absolutely fine. Not fine, but understandable. But Sorry, Nick. My leg's gone dead. The way I was sitting.
That's crazy.
And
Oh,
I've
sorry, your
lost my
leg.
train
Yeah,
of
yeah.
thought. Yeah, my leg went dead. Sorry, and I lost my train of thought there because I couldn't feel my foot.
That's fine. That's all part of the process, Claire. Don't you worry. Uh, yeah, it's interesting. It really is. I mean, I was reading up as well about people thinking that it was a rocket that hit the Pentagon. That was one of the other ones, and that they found passports as well at the bottom of the World Trade Centers as well, and how could they survive if the airplane went into absolute combustion? Although, of course, as well, we don't understand the mechanics. I mean, I don't. If a plane crashes in, it could be like one of those tin can situations where everything gets pushed out the end, and it's quite
But that's the
possible.
thing, we don't know. So, like, if somebody who
Yeah.
is a professional is going to tell me this is what happened, like, I trust that
Mm,
that person's going to tell me the truth. It's when there's so many differing opinions,
mm,
and one opinion seems to be completely written off without any kind of investigation, without any merit. It's just told that you're insensitive and you're wrong for having those
mm.
questions. And like that, I think as a society is going to hinder us. Like if we want to progress and become more evolved and become together like a united people, like we can't be shouting at each other for having these queries.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it is. It is unfortunate, and obviously this is the first one that we're covering, guys, of the series of Consider This. So,
Did you see the comment there from Paul Archibald? New theory: Claire's leg is actually alive and living in Argentina. I heard it has three
amazing.
wives.
I love it. I love it. Yeah, I mean, the Hitler one could be the next one to do. That's an interesting one. Guys, let's see what kind of inputs we have here. So, Anthony McManus, welcome to the stream, brother. Thanks for tuning in. Paul, that seems the best option. They would have been aware of an attack of some sort. Can't announce it as insights for Intermass. So going back to the CIA and them sort of knowing in advance through their networks, I don't know how the CIA operates. Of course, they work in a way to accumulate intelligence from different sources. So yeah, it's very possible that they knew in advance, but they didn't want to incite any fears. Yeah.
Then you
Uh,
could argue that, like, isn't the whole point to incite fear? So you create confusion. If you want to go down the rabbit hole and pull holes and everything, you could say, okay, if they knew, they probably would have said something to incite fear. But
hmm.
again, I have no idea. Like, I just love to pick apart things and question everything.
Yeah. Well, there was an
And
article that I found as well, and it was an interview with a FEMA investigator, and that claimed that the World Trade Center, it has vaults. I'm not pronouncing that right. The Polish in me comes out sometimes with some words, and apparently they were emptied not too long before the attack as well. So in those vaults, they apparently had
yeah,
like gold and all these kind of other things, and yeah, apparently somebody whistleblowed, if you will, and said that listen, there was vans outside the World Trade Center, black vans. People have photographs of them, and they don't know why they were there. They're not normally there, unmarked. And also, yeah, this statement from a FEMA person, let's say. So that's another interesting, going back into sort of the conspiracy itself, into the nitty gritty stuff. Because there is so much information you could sift through, find fair enough. And of course, I understand, Claire, your viewpoint of course, there is this belief as well that, if to incite that, I can't.
go down the
It's
rabbit
tough.
hole. We're here.
I don't
We're here
think
with
I
Alex.
should. I
We
don't
have
think
the
I
tea
should.
party going. Come
Look,
on.
we'll be here all night. We'll be here all night. I can't go into it. I can't.
If you look at like Edward Snowden as an example of like
Great.
American conspiracy theorists, this is a guy who outwardly came and told you that the American government was listening to people not just in America but across the world, and he was called
Mm,
complete criminal of the state, and now is in Russia because he doesn't want to come back to America because he'll be trialed under martial law and people will probably never hear from him again. And he's saying, let me go back to a civil trial with the jury of my peers. Absolutely, let me come home. But what he said proved to be right. What he did, like, paved the way for data protection laws for rights that you
mm,
have now. And this man still has to be in hiding in Russia, and everybody has forgotten about him. So if
mm.
that is still something that's happening right now, and we can't find all of this information about 9/11, like, it is not a massive gap between the two to go that if you're lying this much, there's this bigger conspiracy behind it. There's this bigger theory. I'm this close to getting out my red thread and my big board and just making all the lines. I'm telling you,
you won't have enough space. You won't have enough space.
I will make that space.
Yeah, that's absolutely amazing. I mean, yeah, look, I don't know how much more you want to get into this. There's definitely more
I'm just
stuff.
Following the comments here, and it's like there was never a leg. It was a hologram. It was an arm with pants on it.
Brilliant, guys. Well, that's great. We've got 15 viewers, guys. I'm hoping you must be enjoying this section if you are tuned in. This is a heavy topic. I mean, there's a lot in it, especially for it coming up.
That's
definitely
the thing. It's the week that's in it because the horrible thing about these like conspiracy theories is like, and you know, like, is it conspiracy or is it philosophy or are we going deeper? You know, like who knows? But it's just the closer you are to catastrophic events, the less acceptable it is to kind of talk about. And maybe the further we get away from it, the further we can actually answer those questions. So why not ask now? Do you know? Absolutely. I know it's uncomfortable, but like the search for truth is never going to be.
Yeah,
you know?
it's a continual journey for sure once you start off, because then it opens up all these other possibilities and then these other sort of so-called, as people we just box them into like conspiratory sort of boxes, right, or sections. So it paints kind of a picture of the world then, really, as a whole. So that's why it's very difficult, even for me, let's say, where I'm kind of holding myself back, because I've read into a lot of these things, you know. So for me, I have kind of a painting of my perception of reality, where I have a lot of friends and even family that have a different perception, let's say, because of the information they're consuming. I'm not saying information is good or bad, or anybody else's is good or bad. I won't get into that, you know. That's just, it can be also opinion based. I'd say one thing, and we'll finish up this section very shortly, because
next time we'll do Alien.
No, we'll do Aliens next. Aliens will be easier.
I know. I really liked Steve Buchanan from Art Attack Might Be Banksy though.
Yeah. Well, we'll do the vote again, guys, and then I'm gonna have to slap in a veto now and then, just in case. No, it was meant to be. I love it, but definitely
straight in, no kissing.
Right, we'll see how it goes. Look, I'm the presenter here. I've got a reputation to uphold here. You know, I've got a Claire. I was going to call you Rebecca there. Fuck's sake, Jesus, what's wrong? Look, I'm kerfuffled. I'm kerfuffled talking about conspiracy theories here, guys. It's crazy, but for sure, like I respect the fact that, and I'm aware of the fact, and one thing that I can really confirm is the consumption of information, and this is what it all boils down to at the end of the day, is who's consuming what, and if they're consuming something regularly, they are being put in that, and it's not a conspiracy. Algorithms exist. They are getting the similar type of information with the similar kind of type of politics set, cultural sort of set, movemental, even like movements. They're getting the same sort of stuff, news segments, left and right wing, all that kind of stuff, and that's being kind of created for them. Now, granted, it was perhaps created, you know, as a great idea, which possibly still is considered a great idea, but I find a lot of faults with that, because people get stuck then into a certain state of mentality and a state of reality. A reality is created by the information we absorb. So when somebody presents an alternate reality, because we're not just talking about one conspiracy theory here, and this is me closing off, guys, and Claire's going to give off her close off. I didn't prepare this, by the way, so thank you.
It sounds so prepared.
I know. I get into it. Now I'm into it.
No, you're setting me up.
Yeah. No, I'm sorry. No pressure.
That's the real
but look, I've been doing this for ages, so don't worry. It's going to be amazing. But and I didn't lose my train of thought, did I? Maybe I did. Hold on. Let's see now in a second. But the most important thing is to consider, we have to consider other people. We have to understand. I'm working on this myself, you know what I mean, as well. And you're very good at it, Claire. You've definitely nailed it. And this is why I knew it would be a good idea to have you on the show for this segment. Because you are very compassionate and understanding and respectful to other people's opinions and frames of thoughts, frames of their mind. You know?
I try to be.
You try to be your best, right? You try to do it best. It is difficult. I understand a lot of people can be very passionate about these things, and even myself included, you know. So ultimately, it really does boil down to how much and what information is consumed. For example, people that believe more in sort of conspiracy theory, and I'm just talking it down. This isn't exactly
Yeah.
what I believe in. I don't believe it's all like I don't believe it should be in a conspiratory box, but I'm just saying it just for ease because I know most people will consider this to be all conspiracy. Generally, then a lot of other things would be considered in the, you know, people would believe
In that category.
in that category of thinking. Where if it's this, and what does it boil down to? It boils down to lack of trust of the system that's in play because of being duped before or reading about other, you know, history tends to repeat itself, all this kind of thing. I tried all these kind of phrases, but people not believing in the system, not believing in the mainstream, whereby then you have people like on the other side that believe in the mainstream and they say that anybody that believes in other stuff or is fixated in it mentally, let's put it that way, you can't believe everything you read on the internet. So there's two arguments there. You've got the people saying, that's just mainstream news, that's bullshit. Sure, we all know fake news, we all know that. And unfortunately Trump has coined that term, which has almost invalued the sort of concept of fake news, which, you know, it's
replaced
I don't even like saying it.
theory.
Yeah, so unfortunately fake news, you know, which, you know, the news has been known to hyperbolize, you know, or create sort of,
The more information
false information now and then.
The more information that we have, the less we know. That's the simple fact, because
Basically.
there are, like you said, so many differing realities, differing opinions. There are 7 billion people on this planet. We're never going to, like, as an animal, like, we're never going to be able to control 7 billion people. It's just nature. And the idea that, like, all of these opposing realities are fighting each other instead of trying to understand each other is what creates conspiracy, is what creates theory, rather than conversation. Like, we are trying to be, like, it becomes controversial over just a conversation, and your opinion becomes your fact and your reality. When you can change your mind at any point, you are constantly learning. There are going to be points where I'll be talking to you and I'm going to say something, I'll regret it, and within a week or when I learn more, I might change my mind, and that's okay. You know, that's what this is for. This is the point. Like, we're here to create conversation. We're here to talk about things you might not really want to talk about, or things that you're sick of hearing, but you kind of should keep those conversations open. And, like, I'm just delighted to be able to go down a rabbit hole and chill with Alice on the rag.
Absolutely love it. Great stuff, Claire. Thanks so much for doing that. We're going to do this every week. What do you think? Are you up for it?
Yeah, we'll see what they say.
Okay,
They
guys.
might not want me back.
Who are you referring to when you speak of they?
Oh, 14 of the deMars. Oh, those. Ben, the FBI man who mans my phone.
The men in black. The greys. The reptilians. What will we talk about next week, guys? Big shout out to my co-host, the wonderful Claire Nolan, also known for being a lead singer in Lipton Village and for founding Riff Scene Productions. Go on, tell me, what else are you known for?
My views do not reflect the views of Lipton Village.
Should I just stop relating you to your current projects?
No, they love it. Like, but it's just my views do not reflect Lipton Village. And actually, probably they do. Like, I just don't want to take credit for that.
I love it. Clarice, I'm going to let you go. Are you going to hang around with us for a bit?
Of course. Yeah, I'll be in the comments. You can give out to me there and I'll judge myself quietly.
Stop. Jesus, now I can only praise you. Thanks so much for doing this. And yeah, guys, in the comments, give a big shout out, give a big round of applause, and give some love to our wonderful Claire Nolan
Cheers.
on Consider This.